Hey, everybody. Welcome to Talking Hockey Sense. My name is Chris Peters. It is episode 127 of the podcast. Much to discuss as always. Hockey season is basically here. A lot happening across the hockey world. We're going to talk about the USHL Fall Classic. We're going to talk about some of the latest prospect news. And we're also going to talk about the big announcement at FloHockey this week. And I'm really excited to talk about that. We'll get to that in just a second. Want to remind you, as always, you can follow this podcast in a number of ways. Subscribe to your app of choice. You can also follow us on the FloHockey YouTube page or on the Flow Sports app or on FloHockey.tv. So plenty of ways to follow this show. So if you enjoy it, please do watch it. And we'll continue to do it in some capacity, although I have some other announcements later in the show to talk about as well. So before we go any further, I can't express my excitement for what FloHockey announced this week. I've been sitting on it, been teasing it for weeks, but very, very excitedly, we have this huge announcement, and I need to share it with you guys and talk about it a little bit here on the podcast because I think it's a game changer for us here at FloHockey. And that is the fact that the AHL is coming to FloHockey starting this season on FloHockey. Really cannot wait for that. And we, have that announcement. You're seeing, if you're watching us, you're seeing it on your screen right now. The announcement video that was blasted across social media. And the excitement is just palpable in our company right now. We all feel that this is a big deal for us. I think that the AHL is very excited, but it's also a continuation of a partnership. One thing that a lot of people may not realize is that when Flow Sports acquired Hockey Tech, with it came the AHLTV. So AHLTV existed on its own platform in what we would call a white label, and now it will be part of the Flow Sports app. So everything that you get on FloHockey already, you will now include the AHL in that mix, which I think is super exciting. If you are an AHL fan, this is going to be a little bit different. There are going to be some differences in terms of how it looks, how it feels, but what you do get with all of it is more. And I think that that's kind of the thing that in the age of streaming, it's really difficult to find a one-stop shop for what you want. And now, underneath the Flow banner, we have both the AHL and the ECHL, which means that we have the entire farm system of your favorite team, which is really cool. And nothing like that has ever existed before. So you can watch players go up between the ECHL and the AHL. You can watch players as they progress through their path. And we'll still have a number of great leagues. We have over 21,000 games scheduled to broadcast this year on Flow, and that's just hockey. That is all the hockey you could ever possibly want. You think about the USHL, BCHL, CJHL leagues, including the MJHL, the OJHL, the SJHL, all of these HLs that we have, the Junior A hockey landscape. You've got the Canadian School Sport League, or Sports School League rather. You've got you've got Atlantic Hockey America, men's and women's college hockey. So many steps of the developmental ladder that a player is going to take will exist on FloHockey. And we are so thrilled to be joining with the AHL in this extended partnership. And we're also making an investment. I think that's an important thing, is that FloHockey and Flow Sports at large is making a specific and dedicated investment to hockey. By including the AHL in our platform, we're giving people more of what they love. And now you're able to follow prospects more closely. You could follow the ups and downs of a farm system. You can see how it all works. And so I think that that's been kind of the cool part. And when I came to FloHockey, this was about over 2 years ago now, this was a big part of, what I hoped would happen, is that we would get the AHL, we continue to add leagues, we continue to give more hockey fans more options to follow players. And also, it's an investment away from the NHL. Obviously, the NHL deservedly gets the most attention. It's the very top rung of the professional sports ladder in our sport. But there is a path to get there. And I think that more than ever, there is interest in following that path. So the cool thing is if you're a Boston Bruins fan, you're going to be able to watch the Providence Bruins and the Maine Mariners. You're going to be able to if you're a Philadelphia Flyers fan, you can watch the Reading Royals. You can watch the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, Calgary Wranglers, and the Rapid City Rush if you're a Calgary Flames fan. So you're able to keep tabs on your prospects as they're in your farm system. I think that's really cool. There are also a number of drafted prospects that are in the USHL, that are in the BCHL, that are in some of the Canadian leagues as well. So you have a lot of different options to follow these players. So that makes me really excited. But as I mentioned, Flow Sports has made a dedicated investment in hockey. And if you've been paying attention, not a lot of companies are investing in our sport in this way. And that is one of the reasons why I'm here. It's one of the reasons why I stay here. It's one of the reasons why I hope I'll be here for a long time, because it is hard to find a place that loves hockey as much as someone that is passionate about it does. And I think that that's what we have here at FloHockey. And I am so, so excited to bring you more coverage. So the other things that I wanted to let you know about this partnership with the AHL. We are going to try to cover this league better and more comprehensively than it's ever been covered before. Very excited to be bringing in Patrick Williams as our AHL beat writer this year. If you follow the AHL, you know that Patrick has his finger on the pulse. He does a lot of features for the league and tells you the stories of the players. At Flow, we're going to have him give you the analysis, give you the context, give you some of that institutional knowledge that he has built up over 15 years covering the AHL. And that's going to be brought to our fans on a regular basis. I will continue doing the work on the prospect side of things. I'll continue doing more with that, including farm system rankings. We'll do prospects in the AHL rankings. We'll also do, our regular top 100 affiliated draft prospects, which we haven't done since I've been at Flow, but it's something I did in previous stops and will continue to do as we go forward here, especially now that we can also share video and highlights and different things of those players. So you'll see that. You'll also see an increased effort in visual storytelling, which I think is a really important thing for what we're doing with the AHL. We can tell you these stories in words, but we also want to show you with the video that we're able to produce. We have an award-winning team that is on our video side of the company that does some just tremendously incredible work on their productions, both live and then also with their with the editorial and narrative storytelling that we're able to do with that. If you follow Flow Racing at all, you'll know that they're some of the best in the business in terms of storytelling. We want to bring that to hockey at Flow, and we want to do that. So we have, made investments in that way as well. So you'll see us on the road. You'll see us at various AHL buildings. You'll see us at the big events, and we will be trying to provide more and better coverage than you've ever experienced. So we've got that going for us as well. We'll continue covering the ECHL. We'll continue covering the USHL. We'll continue covering all of our leagues and providing highlights and videos and different things. So you will be able to watch these leagues in a way with shoulder programming, with other things to continue and hold your interest, hopefully, as we go forward with this. But I'm just so excited about what happened with this announcement. I'm so excited that we have the faith of the AHL to tell their stories, and that we also have the opportunity to bring hockey fans the most comprehensive streaming package that has ever existed. One subscription will get you, like I said, over 21,000 hockey games, and even if you only watched 50 of them, that is still an incredible value in terms of the fact that these games, they are, this in the age of streaming, they can be hard to find, and sometimes you have to have multiple subscriptions. Now you'll only need one, and not only will you get subscribed to everything that Flow Hockey has to offer, a Flow Hockey subscription works across our sports, so wrestling, racing, marching, rugby, whatever you want, you will be able to get in terms of what we have to offer here at Flow Hockey. So there are a lot of different things that can increase the value of your subscription. Now, if you are an AHL fan, you are going to notice some differences. As I said, one of them is going to be a really positive difference in that we've invested in better technology to bring a higher quality stream to Flow Sports. That has been a huge investment from our company. We are really excited to bring that to AHL fans. Increased frames per second and different things that will allow a cleaner, crisper picture that you will see on Flow Sports. We also have upgraded and updated our app, which is our connected TV apps such as Roku and Fire Stick and all of those things. There's opportunity there to really refine that, and our team did that and right in time for the season. So that's really cool as well. So there's a lot of new things coming your way this year. Also, I think if you were an AHL TV subscriber before and you're coming over to Flow, yes, there is going to be a different pay structure. Ours is more static than the dynamic pricing that was at AHL TV, but we actually, this is because we have so much more to offer than just the games. And so, there's the $30 a month, the $29.99 a month American for the monthly subscription, and then it's about 150 American for the annual subscription, which knocks that monthly price down to about $12.99. So that's the thing, is that you really want to, if you are an AHL fan, if you are a fan of any of our leagues, I highly, highly recommend the annual subscription. It is an opportunity for you to get so many hockey games, and I can't tell you how many times I myself, uh, even over the years without the AHL, the number of games that I'm able to flip through on my connected TV app, and the game that I was focused on is over, I'm on to the next one. It could be in a different league, it could be in the same league. If I'm in a playoff race, I could watch the rival team, see how they're doing. There's so many different ways to interact with it and to follow the league. So I'm just really thrilled that fans are going to have this option. And we are going to work our butts off to deliver for you in so many different ways. So I really do hope that you'll all keep a close eye on what we've got cooking, and I cannot wait to get started. It is going to be an especially fun time to be both a FloHockey employee and a FloHockey subscriber, because we just have more and better stuff for you, and I really cannot wait to bring all that to the fore. So very exciting time for me. I guess I've probably said the word exciting or excited 58 times in this podcast so far. So I've probably reached my limit, but we will continue to talk about a lot of those things. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about right off the hop here, now that we've kind of gotten the announcement out of the way, is some of the storylines to watch in the AHL this season. And there are a number of them. And I think the one that's top of mind is, can the Hershey Bears three-peat? It is so difficult to do in professional sports regardless, but I think it's even harder when you're in the AHL or the ECHL. We saw the Florida Everblades win 3 straight as of last season in the ECHL, so they're still on an active title streak. Very difficult to do. The first team in ECHL history to win 3 in a row. There have been three-peats in the past, but I believe it's been a very, very, very long time in the AHL. And why is that? Well, there's so much roster turnover in these leagues. Obviously, you have some of your core players, your veteran guys that'll be there for a while, but then you've got prospects coming in and out. The Hershey Bears are probably going to be without a couple of guys that helped them win their last 2 titles because they're playing for the Washington Capitals. So those are the things that I'm curious to see. Todd Nelson, who I think is, one of the better coaches in professional hockey in North America, considering the success that he's had at the AHL level, which I think is a very difficult level to coach at, only because you've got to deal with that roster turnover. You got to deal with losing key players at key times of the season without them being injured. They're just going up to the NHL, or it's hard to motivate players sometimes too, when it's like, hey, I don't know if it's going to be my time. I don't know if I'm going to get that call. So, there are a lot of different things that an AHL coach has to deal with. But the Hershey Bears are now on the cusp of 3 consecutive Calder Cups, and really a dynasty. I mean, like, you think about the Montreal Canadiens and all their Stanley Cups. I mean, the Hershey Bears are going to run out of banner room at their facility in Hershey Park, because it is going to be just absolutely teeming. But we cannot wait to see the Hershey Bears and see what they look like this year. There's a lot there. Another thing that I'm particularly excited about is being able to track NHL top prospects that are on the cusp of the NHL. And I think we're going to have a lot of young players in the AHL. The league continues to get younger, just as the AHL or the NHL does. And we're seeing more of those top prospects enter the league earlier. A couple of guys that I'll be particularly watching at the outset of this is Artem Levshinov and Konsta Helenius, 2 guys that were drafted last year, 2 guys that played. Levshinov played in college hockey last year. Helenius played in the Finnish league last year. Very likely, there's a chance Helenius makes the NHL roster out of camp. There's a chance that Levshinov makes the NHL roster out of camp. If they don't, they'll have the option to go to the AHL. And it sounds like both are more than open and willing to do that. And so to watch highly drafted players from the year's previous draft, if they can compete at the AHL level right away, it's a very good indication that they're really on a quick path to the NHL. If they struggle, don't panic, because the AHL, as I'd say all the time, is an incredibly difficult league for a teenager to have success in. We've seen it before. We've seen a number of guys that have done really well as young players. I'm thinking specifically of Mikko Rantanen, William Nylander, guys like that that had success at a fairly young age in that league, and then they were able to have very successful NHL careers. So I'm still not worried if a guy doesn't have the best start, because I think it is an adjustment no matter what level you come from. And the AHL is full of former NHLers, guys on their way to the NHL, guys that know how to play at the AHL level and have been there for a long time. It is a difficult league to play in. Everyone handles themselves so professionally and uses their experience to their advantage. I'm also going to be keeping a very close eye on the Grand Rapids Griffins. You think about how important the rebuild in Detroit has been and how important the Griffins have been to it. Who will ultimately play for that team and who will play for the Detroit Red Wings later this season. So I think of guys like Sebastian Cossa, Simon Edvinsson, Marco Kasper. Are they ready to take that step? Are they ready to do more? I think Cossa has certainly showed very positively last year with Grand Rapids. I think that he'll do so again this year. I think you give him another chance to really master the pro game, and then he'll be a little bit more prepared. So you got your goalie of the future well lined up. Simon Edvinsson, whether or not he's ready for the NHL in a full-time role will be determined here in camp. And if he does end up going back to the AHL still, there's plenty for him to learn and grow with. And I would say the same for Marco Kasper, who's more of a two-way player, a guy that you kind of need to get a little bit more out of, and you need to make sure that he's both scoring and playing defensively at a really high level. There's a lot of young players in this league that I'm excited to watch. And, you just kind of go up and down the line. You think about guys like Matt Savoy, who was traded to Edmonton this year. Is he going to be in Bakersfield? Is he going to be with the Oilers? There's a lot of different players that we're going to keep a very close eye on early in the season, and also starting this week, because this week is when NHL rookie camps open and we'll have rookie tournaments and things like that. And so a good showing there can at least put you on the path towards competing for a roster spot. And I think a lot of these guys that will be participating in some of these events over the course of the next, several days will have that opportunity to show that they deserve to be in an NHL roster spot. I'll also be keeping a close eye on the Tucson Roadrunners. They are the AHL affiliate of the Utah Hockey Club, obviously formerly the Arizona Coyotes. And so the Roadrunners have, the basically the distinction of being the torchbearer for professional hockey in Arizona right now. I think there's probably a little bit of that awkward feeling because it's still the same affiliate as before, and it's a new team with a new owner. But I think that the Roadrunners in particular are a pretty critical pipeline for Utah to work with. And so to have those players get the proper training, get prepared, that is a team that is not far away from starting to take that turn where it's not a rebuild anymore and it's more of a time to compete. And I think that in Utah, as it was on the way to becoming in Arizona, that makes Tucson a very critical piece of the puzzle of what the Utah Hockey Club ultimately becomes. We'll see exactly what dynamic shifts happen over the next several years in terms of Tucson, in terms of Utah, what that'll all look like. But I'm really excited to see kind of how that all plays out, and certainly glad that we still have, professional hockey in Arizona. Another team too that I think about just starting on fire, and that's, I guess, a pun intended. Coachella Valley Firebirds, they sell out their building. They're extremely popular locally. They have been to the Calder Cup finals 2 years in a row. They have lost 2 years in a row. Their head coach is now the head coach of the Seattle Kraken in Dan Bilesma, moving up to the Seattle Kraken. So it's new coaching staff, a new system. You think about guys like Shane Wright, likely going to make the Kraken out of camp. We would expect that. There are some other players that are kind of in the mix, and guys that can go up and down between Coachella Valley and Kansas City, which they've done very effectively, moving players in and out of those two rosters to get them more development time. Coachella Valley will also take center stage as the host of the AHL All-Star Classic. So, there are a lot of exciting things happening in a non-traditional hockey market. And I think it goes to show you how important the AHL can be, not only to their NHL franchise, but to the market that they exist in. You go from, the Coachella Valley, Palm Springs, not much of a hockey history, to having an overnight sensation where you're selling out your building, you're creating an environment where hockey is thriving, and it gives you another just great data point that if you build it, they will come. And so I think that that's a really cool thing that's happening in Coachella Valley right now. And I'll just continue to be amazed at what happens there these next couple of years, because what has happened already has been beyond my expectations. And I think the sky is the limit for that club. And I think it's only going to make the Seattle Kraken better to have a highly successful AHL team that's continually competing for championships, that is continually putting people, putting players in an environment where it's fun to play. I think that is only going to help them at the NHL level as well. And that's why you look at some of these AHL teams and how important they can be to laying the foundation for the NHL players. Another thing that really stands out about the AHL is it's one of the most proven pipelines for NHL head coaches. I mentioned Dan Bilesma getting the call up to go coach there. We've seen a lot of guys that spent time in the AHL that then got called up. Ryan Warsofsky is a good example. Went ECHL, AHL, NHL as a head coach now with the San Jose Sharks. You think about all the different guys that first got their start in the AHL, at least that got their break in the AHL. A lot of them started in even lower leagues or junior leagues. But names to keep an eye on, especially if you're NHL fans. Todd Nelson, after winning two Calder Cups with Hershey, he's had a tremendous run in the AHL. He's had some opportunities at the NHL level. Where does the next one come? And that's where I think it'll be really interesting to see. And he's a guy whose name I think will continue to be on NHL rosters or NHL boards and on general managers will be looking at him because he's won and he wins consistently. And I think there's something to be said about that. It seems like every year, you hear about Carl Taylor's name being in the mix for head coaching jobs. He's done such a phenomenal job with the Milwaukee Admirals as their head coach, and continues to put players and place players in a great position to to make NHL rosters. And so he's had a long history coaching going back to the late 90s, and he's coached in the ECHL, he's coached in the AHL. You want to see when is his opportunity at the NHL level going to come. I think it won't be terribly far away. Some other coaches that I think are really going to be interesting to watch. Marco Sturm out in Ontario. He coached Germany to the gold medal or to the silver medal at the 2018 Olympics, when there were the first year that we didn't have NHL players. Almost beat Russia, and then he comes back over to North America, starts coaching with the Kings, and has done a nice job in Ontario and helping get players prepared for the NHL roster. John Gruden with the Toronto Marlies, not that John Gruden, but I've known John for a number of years. I think he's such a tremendous coach and really the kind of guy that a lot of teams would like to play for. And then there's going to be a lot of rookie head coaches this year too. One guy that in particular that you were, if you watched FloHockey over the last 2 years, were able to see what he did with the Green Bay Gamblers, and that was a really good team. They had Artem Levshinov, they had other players, Jason Shagabe, Adam Guyon last year. A lot of NHL draft picks and prospects and guys that played there. But Mike Leone, now the head coach of the Rochester Americans, a young guy kind of in that pipeline. We saw Seth Appert come through, and Seth Appert now an assistant coach with the Buffalo Sabres. So you look at guys like that and you say, wow, let's see where this career goes. And because obviously, Ryan Warsofsky, it seemed like his ascent in coaching was pretty fast, but he also won a lot at the various levels and was able to, prove himself that way. And I think, with Mike Leone, he's gone pretty quickly up the charts. And actually, he played for John Cooper as a player back when Cooper was coaching in the North American Hockey League. So that is a long way back. And so think about that coaching tree as that continues to grow with guys like Derek Lalonde and others that are getting those opportunities to coach professional hockey. So a lot of exciting things happening at the USA or at the AHL level. that really do affect things at the NHL level in the coming years. So we will keep a close eye on that. So now we're to the prospect updates, and here's what we have for you on that. There's a lot to talk about. Anton Frondell, the top Swedish draft prospect, news came out last week from Hockey News Sweden that he is out indefinitely. We don't have a timeline. I have heard it's a lower body injury, possibly a knee injury, and we don't know when he'll be back at this point, but obviously a significant amount of time lost for him. He was hurt at the end of last season, and now he's hurt to start the beginning of this season. He was injured during the Four Nations, where Sweden took a U20 team and they played in the Four Nations tournament, and unfortunately he was injured during that event. So that is something to watch for the 2025 NHL draft. I think that definitely puts Porter Martone more firmly in the number 2 range right now, with a real reason to challenge James Hagens. We will have some James Hagens content coming for you very soon on FloHockey, as well as we caught up with him at the World Junior Summer Showcase and wanted to kind of set his draft season up. We will talk a lot about James Hagens as the season progresses, but that is this race for number 1, Anton Frondell, starting a little bit behind here because of injuries. And as we saw with Caden Lindstrom, who's also still been dealing with some injury stuff, that can certainly impact your draft stock. It didn't affect Lindstrom too much because Columbus still picked him in the top 5. But Frondell, we're going off of what he did as a U17 as opposed to a U18, and I think that actually, there are going to be teams that are concerned if he's out for an extended period of time. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. Frondell is an outstanding player. He's a big body. He's got strength. He's got skill. He can skate. But as the injuries pile up, the risk also piles up with it. Also, another Swedish player I wanted to talk about is an interesting case. You got Ottawa Senators second-round draft pick Gabriel Eliasson. He was picked number 2 overall in the USHL Phase 2 draft, or Phase 1 draft, and he is not going to report to the USHL. And his rights are currently held by HV71. But he is committed to the University of Michigan. So if he stayed with HV71, he would have to stay in the U20 league. Would not be able to advance up that. He also has his OHL rights owned by the Niagara Ice Dogs. So we will keep a close eye on what Gabriel Eliasson is doing, because he is a big man, 6'6", has a lot of upside, needs a lot of work, needs a lot of honing. So this next year is pretty critical. Does he decide to go and stay in Sweden, or does he come to North America? Does he decide not to go to Michigan next in a couple of years? That's kind of the thought right now, is anything can happen. And so that's a little bit up in the air at this point. Also, we've got Michael Misa opening up his season on September 25th with the Saginaw Spirit. He is obviously the exceptional status player that comes into this season. He is now draft eligible after 2 OHL seasons, had a great U16 year. U17 year was decent, not amazing, but it was good. It was still progression. And now this year, I think the expectation is he's got to level up. And so Michael Misa, the fact that he was an exceptional status player, no longer a relevant fact in terms of what he is as a player. It's all about what you're doing right now, and Misa is going to have an opportunity to play a leading role on a Saginaw team that is still going to be very talented after winning the Memorial Cup last year, a team that has reason to believe that it can compete. And so he's got to be the guy to do that. I think he will, but they will open up the OHL season on September 25th, and that will be the banner raising night of the Memorial Cup as well. So that is something that is really, really exciting as we get started. Junior hockey right around the corner. We've also got Atlantic Hockey America starting on October 4th and 5th. Air Force will be playing Arizona State, and in that game, you will see Cullen Potter, a bit of a controversial prospect, not because of anything in terms of behavior and things like that. It's more because of he decided to accelerate to go to school early. He's going to Arizona State, was previously committed to Michigan State. Now we're going to get a chance to see him. Air Force is a tough team to play in your first game because they play hard, they play physical. But Cullen Potter, one of the better skaters in this draft class, can he handle the adjustment from going from a U17 at the National Team Development Program, not playing on the U18 team, to going right into college hockey? And so that is going to be fascinating. We will have both of those games for you on FloHockey Live. So make sure you check that out. Again, that'll be in early October. So check our schedule for that. In the more immediate future, it's time to talk about the USHL Fall Classic. And honestly, one of my favorite events of the year, because it's a great opportunity to set a baseline for every USHL team. I don't necessarily take a ton out of the results. I don't take a ton out of player performances. I think back to players that I saw absolutely light it up at that event and fall back. I've seen players that did not perform well at that event and blew up later in the season. Michael Hage is a great example. Didn't have a great start last year with the Chicago Steel. Had a tremendous second half. Those are the types of things that we'll be looking at. But I wanted to at least give you a little bit more. So September 18th is when it opens up. There will be every single USHL team in Pittsburgh or Cranberry Township more directly. They will be there from the 18th to the 21st. There will also be hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of NHL personnel there, including scouts, assistant GMs, other kind of people that are involved in the decision-making process. It is crawling with black jackets when you are at the USHL Fall Classic. FloHockey will also be there. We're sending a team of 3. I'll be there. Liz Child will be there. Taylor Doganieri will be there, and you'll get to see some of their handiwork very soon. In terms of the different things that we have planned for visual storytelling and also some writing and other things. Ryan Sykes is back this year, our USHL beat writer, so he will also be providing some coverage. He'll have a lot of preview content coming your way starting this week. So make sure you're staying close because we will have a lot of USHL coverage, a lot of drafted prospects in the league this year, and a number of guys that are draft eligible that we'll be tracking very closely. There will also be history at this year's Fall Classic. Lenny Childs will be the head coach of Omaha. He will take the bench on the second day of the event. And when he does, he will officially become the first black head coach to coach a game in the USHL. He's been around at the college level. He's been around at the junior level. He has been working up the ranks very quickly. He is leading the Omaha Lancers this year, and very excited to catch up with Lenny and see how things are going with him and the Omaha Lancers. But history will be made at the USHL Fall Classic. We're also going to get a real good glimpse of the future of the league. A lot of high-quality tenders, guys that signed before the draft in order to kind of pick their spot. Jack Hextall, one of the top tenders from the 2008 birth year, he will be playing for the Youngstown Phantoms. We'll be excited to see how he does in his first USHL action. Tynan Lawrence, who went to Shattuck St. Mary's, signed with Muskegon, and that's another name to keep in mind. Adam Valentini was a top player in Toronto last year. He is now with the Chicago Steel. The list goes on and on. Jet Quijah is going to be playing for the Madison Capitals. I mean, there's a lot of new names that you're going to learn and want to get to know better, and you'll be able to see them on the Fall Classic. We will also have a number of free-to-stream games at the USHL Fall Classic. 1 game per day will be available on FloHockey's platform, on YouTube, on X, on Facebook. We will be providing that free stream. So it is a great chance to preview what you get with a FloHockey subscription. It's a little different because at the Fall Classic, it's in more of a community rink, whereas a lot of these teams play in stadiums where they have multiple camera angles, they have instant replay. So it won't look exactly the same as what you're used to from a FloHockey broadcast just because of where it is. But the Fall Classic is always a great opportunity to kind of get that baseline for some of these draft eligible prospects, to get to know players better. We're really excited to bring it to you, and we'll have tons of coverage of that event. Also, make sure you are reading all of Ryan Sykes' stuff. He has really got the league covered, and he is doing a great job for us providing some preview coverage of this season. I think the other thing that I wanted to point out is that there's a lot. I think the league will be wide open this year. I look at a team like Dubuque. They added a number of NHL draft picks to their roster this season. Heikki Ruohonen from Philadelphia, Lucas Van Vliet from the Vegas Golden Knights, Christian Kostadinsky from the Boston Bruins, and Jonathan Morello, also of the Boston Bruins, all are expected to be part of the Dubuque Fighting Saints this year. So that's a team that I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on. Muskegon is very excited about their young players, even though they've lost a couple of their top guys from last year. So that's going to be interesting to watch. How does Fargo go from being one of the top teams in the league? Are they rebuilding now? Are they going to be ready to compete right away? Those are a number of the things that we'll be discussing here. And so obviously that will also be part of Ryan Sykes's coverage. So make sure that you are close to all of that so that you know what's coming, when it's coming, and also watch those games, those free games, and also subscribe, and you can see the entire Fall Classic, including games that feature the U.S. National Under-18 team, and then the other draft-eligible prospects that we will be tracking very closely throughout the season. So make sure you are signed up before September 18th. Get that annual subscription ready to go so that you're ready for the entire season without interruption. All right. So that's about it for the podcast today. I do want to talk to you guys a little bit because there is a good chance that this is the last time I'll be addressing you from Talking Hockey Sense. This is the podcast that I started before I came to Flow. I was on my own. I was independent. It was after ESPN and ended, and I was sad to not have that. But starting this podcast was one of the real benefits of what happened. And so I just want to, before I go any further, I want to let you know there will still be a podcast. It just might have a different name. It's going to have a little bit of a different format, and it's not just going to be me next time, which I've told you guys is coming for the last couple of weeks, but. When I needed a bit of a career lifeline, this podcast basically gave me one. And it gave me a chance to interact with you. I think it gave you guys a chance to get to know me better, how I am. I feel, I don't know that I'm necessarily most myself in this podcast because I think that I'm a lot goofier than I put out to the public, and a lot sillier. And my daughter can definitely attest to that. I love to laugh, but obviously when I talk business, it's a little bit more serious. But I feel like I'm able to at least converse with you all. It's a one-way conversation, of course, but it's still an opportunity to talk with you guys. And I've always been blown away by anyone that has ever come up to me and said, "Hey, love the podcast. Really like what you're doing." When our numbers go way up during the draft, it lets us know that we're providing a good service as well. And hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that just in a different format. When I started, it was just me, and I would always have a guest on. Our first guest was Bob McKenzie, who has been a mentor to me and certainly a person that I value immensely. And just the fact that he was the first guest on this thing was super exciting to me, and it also legitimized the podcast pretty quickly with the hockey audience. We've had Elliot Friedman on, we've had Emily Kaplan, Greg Wyshynski, one of my best friends, Ryan Clark, Brad Schlossman has been a very frequent guest on this podcast, Corey Pronman, another one. These guys are some of my very best friends in the business. Stephen Ellis and all of these people that have come on to help, help me, basically make content for you. And then also everybody that's ever asked questions. We kind of changed the format. It was getting very difficult for me to, spend my time booking guests. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to just turn this over to the listeners and find out what they want to know. And we'll do a Q&A format. It was kind of stolen directly from the old Bobcast that Bob McKenzie did. But I figured that you guys would provide these insightful questions, and holy smokes, were they always great. They were just so awesome. So, I'm really excited about what's to come. We do have the co-host lined up. We do have the format lined up. We're just finalizing some other preparation things. And so we'll go away for a few weeks. We'll get everything ready. We'll come back. You guys will see it. We'll probably announce it ahead of time, let you know what's coming. But exciting things are on the horizon with the AHL coming on, with us continuing to invest in hockey and bring you more content. The best is very much yet to come. And while we're closing the chapter on this particular venture in terms of talking hockey sense and this solo podcast. um, we're only working harder to make the next iteration of whatever this may be to even better and more fun, and hopefully one of the biggest podcasts we can make it. We want to, widen that tent and bring more people in that want to learn about prospects and learn about the game, and that's what we're going to try to do. So, if you have ever downloaded, listened, asked questions, said hello in public, anything like that, thank you, thank you, thank you. It means the world to me. This is a very personal endeavor. And so to know that that resonated with enough people makes me really, really happy. And I hope that, you guys will follow along when we come back for the next one. And for all that we've done here with Talking Hockey Sense, I'm just so thrilled about the product we put forward, and I think that whatever comes next is only going to be better. So, a huge thanks to you. Also, want to give a big thanks to Nikki for producing today's show. And he's been behind the show for the last several weeks, and it's always great to have a professional back there helping me try to look and sound good. Not an easy task, but we appreciate that, and also appreciate all the folks at FloHockey that have made this podcast possible over the years, and also to my patient wife for letting me continue to do this crazy job in hockey. So it's been a lot of fun, and I just cannot thank you guys enough. So possibly for the final time, I think for the final time, because it's going to have to be now after a big thing like that. My name is Chris Peters. This is Talking Hockey Sense. We'll see y'all soon.